It's my pleasure to welcome you all to the kickoff of the Rapid 640 project. Thank you for taking time on a Wednesday evening at dinner hour, nonetheless, to join us. We're super excited about this project. It will provide much needed transit capacity in the I-5 corridor between the border, the San Ysidro Port of Entry, in downtown San Diego. And for many, many years, we've heard from the community that more and better transit service is needed in this corridor. The Blue Line trolley operates in this corridor currently, and it gets the highest transit ridership in the region by far. And we know that there is more service that's needed, but there's a lot of constraints and a lot of challenges with adding trolley service in this corridor. That's a much longer term project, and you'll hear a little bit more about that later this evening. However, Rapid Bus is something that we can bring to the community much sooner, provide fast service and a great alternative to the trolley. I do want to be clear, though, we currently only have funding to do the planning work for this project. We'll be actively working with our partners at MTS and Caltrans and the cities in the corridor to seek grants and get funding for the next stages of work. And we have a lot of those partners who are with us here tonight who can answer questions that may not be specific about this project, but about their communities or the areas that they work. So tonight, the project team is going to go over the routes. The route planning is not, the detailed planning hasn't been done yet. That's what we're starting right now. So you may have a lot of questions that we won't have answers for tonight. We're really at the point where we're taking in a lot of information so that we can decide where stops need to go and where the route should go. This is not going to be your only opportunity to provide feedback and to participate. This is really just the start of a conversation. There's a lot of people who can't attend public meetings, so we also have a survey, and we'll share more information about the survey, but we'll be launching that survey, and we would appreciate any help that you can provide with getting the word out. We want to hear from a lot of folks, whether or not they can join a public meeting or not. So thank you again for being here. We're going to have a pretty short presentation tonight. We mostly want to hear from you. There'll be plenty of time for Q&A, and Allie will provide a little bit more information about how you can ask questions in a moment. So Allie, do you want to kick things off?
Yeah, and so if you do have a question, don't feel like you have to wait till the end of the meeting. Please, as you think of them, just drop that question either in the Q&A or the chat box, which you can find either by clicking on one of those conversation bubble symbols at the bottom of your screen. And we'll try to answer urgent questions as we see them, but all other questions we will get to during that chunk of time that we set aside at the end of the meeting. And if we, for some reason, don't get to all of your questions, we will write up answers for you after the call and send a follow-up email with those soon. So for anyone who hasn't connected with us before, we did want to explain real quick, what is SANDAG? So SANDAG is the regional transportation planning agency that works for you. So you all pay taxes, and then the federal, state, and local government send some of that funding back to the region through us to work with our local government partners to plan our transportation system. So that's improvements to the roads, highways, bike lanes, anything that helps you move around the San Diego region, from small things like this new bus route that we're planning to bigger projects like that new border crossing that's being planned in East Otay Mesa. Then we also build transportation projects of all sizes, like when we added bike lanes to El Cajon Boulevard, to major construction like when we extended the Blue Line trolley to UC San Diego. And while we do all this, we also work on preserving natural resources in the region to make sure our work is supporting a safe, healthy environment. And we provide public resources back to the community, like our free youth transit program, or also funding to local cities for things like fixing potholes and a whole lot more. So you can feel our impact in many different ways in the region. So now I'm going to turn it over to one of our planners, Brian, who can tell you more about our rapid bus projects in general, after kind of explaining the difference between us and MTS, because that's a question that we get a lot.
Yeah, no, we've added this slide in our presentations now to specifically kind of answer that question we do get a lot. And it's confusing because there's lots of government agencies around the county. And so like Allie just explained, SANDAG does a lot of those long range planning type of efforts in the region. We design and then construct a lot of those regional projects, especially the ones that are involving multiple cities, going across boundaries, going those longer distance. while MTS is the actual transit provider in most of the San Diego County south of North County. They actually do the operational work. They hire the bus drivers, change the schedules a couple times a year, maintain the vehicles, and do all that short-term kind of transit planning work. And so a little more about rapid projects. If you're familiar with our existing rapid projects that are out there today, there's 6 or 7 specific routes out there today, but we're planning a much wider network in our regional plan. And every 4 years, we update our regional plan to kind of look at the long-term transportation network in the county to see how we can really try and get more people riding transit and, hopefully choosing that option rather than always just driving solo wherever they need to go. In our draft regional plan that's you'll be seeing in the next few months, we have 35 new rapid routes that are proposed by 2035. And we realize that is a lot of routes. And if we don't start planning for them today, we're not going to be able to get them out there by then. And so we started the planning and design for 6 of these routes today. This is our 4th public outreach meeting for these. We've done some other outreaches before on some other routes. And so they're kind of excited to actually get the planning and design work now. And if we can get some more funding, like Antoinette was talking about, we can then really go into those next steps of design and construction and actual operations of the route. And with that, I think I'll head it back to Allie for a check-in.
Oh, and actually, I think
Oh, sorry.
Brian, you were going to tell us about rapid, but actually,
Yeah,
Brian,
there is
real
more.
quick, I saw there was somebody in the chat that was having problems listening to the meeting in Spanish. I'll just repeat the instructions. Para los que están escuchando la junta en español, para activar la interpretación, si está escuchando en un smartphone, solo tiene que tocar la pantalla para ver los 3 puntitos y luego presionar interpretación y Spanish. Pero por si tiene preguntas, solo avísanos en el chat, ¿ok? Gracias. Okay, go ahead, Brian.
Thanks, Alan. Hopefully that works for everybody now. And so, right, what is different about rapid service? Like I mentioned, we have those current existing routes out there today. In the South Bay, we have the Rapid 225, South Bay Rapid, that goes from Otay Mesa up through the Otay Mesa East area, and then through Chula Vista up and to downtown San Diego. On a few parts of that route, it has bus-only lanes and other priority measures to help get the bus going past traffic that are out there. Ideally, that's what Rapid can do is pass by traffic using either lanes, or one of our newest things is special technology with the transit signals or the traffic signals out there to get more green lights than it would get red lights out there. Another big great thing about Rapid are they do have fewer stops than a regular bus, and so you can go longer and faster along that route and getting to places where you really need to go to much quicker. And like we'll talk about with this route, that is one of the most important parts, is to get to, from the border to downtown much faster. Our rapid routes also come a lot more often. Most of our routes are on a 10-minute frequency. Every 10 minutes, a bus is going to come. A couple of them may have 15 minutes during the middle of the day. Our super loop up in the UC San Diego area is actually every 5 minutes during the peak. So we're really trying to get those buses that much more often. So you don't even have to think about when is the bus coming. You can just get out there and that bus is going to be coming probably within a few minutes. And then our rapid stops do have that kind of a modern display, digital display, like you might see at trolley stations or other rail stations, because we know for passengers, it's very important to understand when that next bus is coming and then, where its destination is going to, so there's no confusion. So now I'll hand it back to you, Allie.
Yeah, so we know the rapid route in particular everyone is interested in is the Rapid 640. So you can see the study area here on the map. And we thought we'd just start with a quick poll so we can get a sense of who's here and what your connection is to the area that we're studying. So if we could launch that first polling question, which of these places on the map, that white part of the map, do you go to often? If you could just check all the boxes that apply. Everybody navigate the polling question. A couple more people figuring it out. I'm seeing lots of folks with connections to San Isidro on the house. A couple people that go to Imperial Beach, Chula Vista, National City, Radio Logan. A lot of folks going to downtown. So everybody can see. Good distribution of people on the call. Great. And if we could just launch that second question, we're interested in knowing, how are you getting to these places now? Are we driving? Are we ride sharing, taking transit, biking, walking? Check all that apply. Seeing a good amount of people on the call already taking public transit, some people driving, some people using ride shares or biking and walking. Great. Thank you for that. Awesome. And so now Brian's just going to share a little bit more background on this route, along with one of our other senior planners, Cecily, as well.
Yeah, and I forgot to introduce myself, everyone. I'm Brian Lane. I'm a senior transit planner at SANDAG, and I, with a couple other of my fellow coworkers, will be managing some of these rapid routes that I was talking about, the 6 routes that we're doing the planning on. So I appreciate you all coming here tonight. And I'm looking at the answers to these questions. Look, this is one of the routes that we've been doing the public outreach so far. The most people have taken public transit already, and we get it. This area of the county has some good public transit, but it can really be improved, and hopefully that's why you're here, to help us provide input on how we can improve things for. But and again, you know, we've been hearing from folks as we do our regional plan outreach and just other work that, you know, there does need to be some sort of an express version on the Blue Line to get people to downtown faster. And so Cecily, in a second, we'll talk a little bit more about that. But you know, we're hearing even just not even to downtown, that other routes in the South Bay as well. And so we do have another proposed rapid route that we'll be working on, that if you've been to our Purple Line meetings, you've heard about the rapid precursor, or the rapid route that would come out before the Purple Line may come out. That one also comes from the San Isidro border crossing and would go to other places in the region. So we've really heard that expanding transit routes, making them more fast, more frequent, is kind of what you're all looking for. And then also just getting into more central San Diego areas, not just downtown, but also Kearny Mesa and up to the UC San Diego area. But the central downtown is one of the biggest areas we have been hearing about. And so that's why we're looking at this kind of an express rapid that gets you to downtown. But I will I'm going to turn it over to Cecily, who can talk about kind of the other projects that we're working on besides just the rapid.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. So first I'll highlight a study that was done a few years ago, because the suggestion for faster Blue Line service is definitely not a new one. Our partners at MTS did a study a few years ago that looked at a few options for speeding up service, including adding an extra track that would allow the trolley to skip certain stops and operate that sort of express service, as you might be familiar in other parts of the country or the world. But keep in mind that for safety reasons, the trolley would still need to slow down when it's going through stations where people would be crossing. And because of that, we found that we could maybe just save 7 minutes, up to 7 minutes at most, by building that extra track. And that's 7 minutes saved on a trip that today takes 32 minutes to get from San Isidro to 12th and Imperial. Another thing to note is that if you're adding express service like this, it would mean reducing service for the trains that do stop at every station, because you would need to convert one of those to express service. So that's another drawback that was noted as part of that planning study. We also recognize that a lot of the trolley slowdowns and delays happen as the trolley is navigating through downtown between the Santa Fe Depot and 12th and Imperial. So we definitely want to keep looking into options for how we can improve the Blue Line, both in terms of travel times, how often that trolley is running. And at the same time, we know that riders need more options now. So that's definitely why we're looking into starting this kind of rapid bus service that can provide another new transit option for folks who are using the Blue Line today or otherwise traveling in the corridor. And on the next slide, we'll summarize the kinds of things that we're looking into in the next few years. So again, we're here today talking about the rapid route. We'll continue having the discussion of what that route could be like. But other things that we're starting to look at is, again, continuing to see what we can improve on the Blue Line. We'll dig into options for speeding up trips, both south of downtown or within downtown, compare those with other kinds of improvements we might be able to do, like adding another car to every train so that it can be less crowded at those busy times. We could look into what it could mean to separate the trolley to be above or below the streets, which could improve safety and make it easier for cars to travel across the tracks. And we're also looking into the possibility of extending that coaster and Amtrak service that currently stops downtown. What if we could extend it to San Isidro? And maybe that could help people who are traveling from the border or South County to cities farther north than downtown or San Diego, even connecting all the way up to Los Angeles. So we know that that will take a long time to happen, but we're looking into that now so we can understand what the best future for this corridor could look like. So if you want to find out more about those different rail projects, you can subscribe to our newsletter for updates about surveys and focus groups as we get those started. But now we'll shift back to just talking about the rapid bus that we're all joining on today.
Thanks, Cecily. So yeah, here's a map showing the study area for this route, this rapid route. Right now we're calling it Rapid Route 640. That's just a number in our project folders. That's probably not what the actual route number will be, but we refer to this as the San Isidro to downtown rapid route. As you can see, it starts at the border at the San Isidro trolley station, where if it actually uses the Interstate 5 or other parallel roads is yet to be determined. That's what we'll really look at as we do the alternatives analysis and the planning over the next year and a half. Do we take other certain side roads to get to Imperial Beach stops that are near the freeway or not? That's really what we're going to try to look at. And Allie's going to go through some things in a few minutes of asking you where are the kind of key locations you want to go to. And that will help us understand and then do the planning of what kind of alternatives we should look at for this route to make the best route possible that everyone kind of likes. That's why we're starting from a blank slate today. But right now, we do know that connecting San Isidro and downtown are two of the most important main connections. But we'll also be looking at Imperial Beach, Chula Vista National City, and Barrio Logan to see what kind of key destinations might be good for an express bus or rapid bus as well. And MTS just started the OWL service at night, which is kind of a overnight trolley experience for riders to get up to those destinations where they couldn't between 1:30 a.m. and about 5 a.m. So that's a good helper for us as well to understand the ridership patterns on kind of a mini express route. But over the next year and a half, we'll really get into the weeds of where this route can go to. So on the next slide, what does it take to make this a reality? So right now we're studying the area and the possible routes and stops. This was our first public outreach meeting for this. We haven't even really done any planning yet. We're just starting the existing conditions report, which just talks about what's out there today, what people have been asking for, where people are, where they're going to, looking at that data, doing an outreach meeting like this to try and understand things. Over the next year and a half, we'll then start looking at alternatives, and we'll come back out to the public probably this fall or some point with those alternatives and get your feedback on those as well before we even move into the next step. And then in the orange text on this page, then after we do that alternatives analysis, then we would start maybe finalizing the route and the stops and studying the environmental impacts. If we can get the funding to move through the environmental documents, then we would do that. And that's probably another 6 months to a year kind of a work that you would need to do. And then if, depending on how popular this route is, and if we can get the funding between local, state, and federal dollars, then we would actually do the final design and get into the construction. And then once we're done with construction, then you could open the route up to the public. That could be as early as 2029. We still have to buy the vehicles, even if we just did an express route on the freeway today without doing any changes at all. We'd still have to buy some vehicles and hire the drivers and get the money for those vehicles. So even in the best case scenario, it's a couple of years to do something like that. If we want to do some really great things, like doing some work on the freeway to find ways to get the buses around the traffic that's out there today, something like that with the construction and the design and the environmental work could take a few more years. So depending on how great of a version of this that we put out, it takes out. But we're always looking for ways to get a route out sooner than later and then start building on that to improve on it. So with that, I'll turn it back to Allie for another check-in.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Yeah, and every time Brian's saying alternatives, that's just a fancy name for possible routes for the bus. So that's what we'll be exploring this year, and that's kind of where we're at right now. So just another quick check-in to get a sense of who's on the call and your experience using transit. Can we launch this next question? We're interested to know how often you're using public transit right now. Seeing some people's responses coming in. Looks like we got a lot of people using it every week. A few people on the call using it a couple times a month, a couple times a year. Great, just so you can see. Awesome. Great, thanks for sharing that. And so this is the main thing we want your input about today, which is places in the study area that, in your opinion, are getting visited by a lot of people on a regular basis. Because as Brian was saying, knowing these popular destinations is going to help us figure out where exactly the bus route could go, and seeing all the different places people are trying to get to is going to suggest where we could put stops on the route. So that's not to say every single point on the map would be a stop, right? Because then the bus would be very slow. But if once we figure out clusters of places where there are lots of people going, that can help us narrow down where the stops could go. So we've already researched a bunch of these locations, as you can see on the map. And we also collected some feedback in this area for the Rapid 688 route as well. But we just wanted to hear from you right now. So we're going to launch a polling question. If you could tell us, are there any other major places a lot of people are going to, thinking about vital destinations like jobs, medical centers, big schools, shopping centers, places where a lot of people are going to appointments. I know when we did the Rapid 688 outreach, folks mentioned Southwest Middle and Southwest High, as well as the Las Americas outlets, and of course the pedestrian border crossing, along with, I think this didn't make it on the official map we put on here. They'd mentioned the swap meet on Coronado Avenue in Imperial Beach as well. But just let us know if you have anything to add in this area, or if you agree with something you see on the map. You say, yes, definitely. And you can feel free to put multiple destinations in one response and submit that. Just separate them by commas. Or if you didn't know and you already hit submit, but you want to put another, you can just drop it in the chat and we will make sure that gets recorded. Still seeing a couple of places come in. Gonna give it another 20, 30 seconds here. Great, I'm not seeing anybody add any others. And if you think of something right when you get off the call today, don't worry, we're gonna have a survey out for 6 weeks where you can drop those points onto a map later on. So I'm just gonna end the poll and see what people were saying. Let me open this up. Zoom's just thinking for me. Let's see what people said. A couple people said, nope, nothing to add. Some people agreeing with Las Americas. Some people mentioning connections to cross the border into Tijuana, definitely. Seeing other references to the Coronado Avenue in Imperial Beach, people had mentioned during Rapid 688 outreach. San Isidro Health, people agreeing with Las Americas. Some people mentioning the Iris Avenue station as well, and just calling out some places in downtown San Diego. Great. Thank you so much for that. So now we're going to move on to popular destinations in Chula Vista. So what destinations are missing on this map, or do you agree with anything that we've called out on this maps? Places that a lot of people are trying to get to. People had mentioned last time some of the parks and the Social Security office. Lots of people had mentioned going to the Broadway Plaza area with Costco and Walmart. What else? Is there anything missing? Let us know. And again, just major places in Chula Vista that are in the white area of the map. And if we're trying to figure out what street this is Broadway here. So anything west of Broadway. Still was seeing a couple responses trickle in. Let's give it about 15 more seconds. Okay, not seeing more of those trickle in. Again, you can always submit more of those online in our survey. Okay, so it looks like Some people mentioned Sharp, the medical offices. Some people agreeing with Costco. Some people mentioning Scripps Mercy, right? That's right on the edge there. And agreeing with the Social Security office. Mentioning the neighborhood over by Castle Park Middle. I know that's a really popular area people are trying to get to. Great. Awesome. Thank you for that. And we're interested in knowing where people are trying to get to in National City. National City in the Shelltown area. And I guess we have a little point on this map in kind of the eastern part of Barrio Logan. So if you have any comments for this part of the map, please let us know. People mentioned the libraries, the National City campus of Southwestern College, Kimball Park. A lot of people trying to get to the Navy base. If we do have any representation from the Navy on the call, maybe letting us know what entrance number would be best for considering a stop there would be helpful. Great, still seeing some people sending in their thoughts. Gonna give it about 30 more seconds. Great, saw a couple people submit right at the end there, and don't worry, we definitely will accept more of those in the survey online. Good, some people mentioning the Social Security office, people agreeing with the Navy base. NASCO's on the map, 100%. NASCO, the Navy base, Social Security office, people agreeing with Kimball Park and the Southwestern campus, Civic Park, awesome. And some people calling out City Hall, the Walmart, the National City Swap Meet. I know that could be popular. Walmart. A couple other people mentioning NASCO. Great. Thank you for that. And lastly, lots of places people are trying to get to in Barrio Logan and downtown that we identified. But if anything's missing on this map, I'll give you a couple minutes to check this out and let us know. Do you agree with some of the destinations you see here? Are there any other popular places you think lots of people are trying to get to in this area? And just saw a couple responses trickle in. So just giving it maybe another 15, 20 seconds. I know this was a big part of the map with lots of destinations to look at. Okay, not seeing much more trickle in, but please send in any you didn't get to online as well. Okay, some folks saying they agree with the Navy and Petco and Chicano Park. The people mentioned agreeing with a lot of what they see on the map. Petco and City College as well. The county building, agreeing with Gaslamp, Petco, and the convention center and the marina. Great. Awesome. So thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on that. And if you think of anything else, again, please submit it in the survey online. So in this section, we've seen a number of questions come through in the chat and the Q&A that we're going to be answering now. And some of our planners who are experts on this stuff are here to answer those questions from SANDAG, but we do also have some of our partners online as well to answer any questions that pertain to them. Just to reiterate a couple of frequently asked questions we get after these types of presentations. We don't know if there will be a bus stop next to a particular place yet, and we don't know which streets the route is going to take. So that's why we're here talking to all of you and why we're going to continue talking to you. Your feedback is going to help narrow that down. And same question to how often will the bus come, right? That depends on if we get all the funding that we need. The hope, right, is that it could come every 15 minutes during the busiest commute times and every 30 minutes the rest of the day. Do we know what days of the week or what times it'll come? No, not yet. Same answer. And how soon will I be able to take it? Depends on if we keep getting the funding. If we get the funding, as Brian said, as soon as 2029, just to cover our bases on those super common questions. So I think we'll get it going. Someone asked, would a rapid bus have a different cost than regular buses?
Brent,
I
you want to
can-
take
sorry.
that one?
Who was that? Sorry.
Brian, you want to take it?
Sure. Sorry, we're all trying to jump in and answer the questions. So Rapids today, maybe you're asking the fare, how much the fare a passenger would pay. The Rapids today are the exact same price as all the other local buses, and that's our plan, is to keep those types of Rapids the same price. Our very long Rapid Express routes do cost a little bit more, but those are going very long distances where this one isn't quite as long. So we'd expect it to be the same price as all the other Rapids and local buses out there and the trolley today.
Great. Thank you for that. So I think I'd covered some of the questions that happened in the chat. Second question was, is SANDAG going to compare looking at going down the 5 versus going down Broadway for this route?
Yeah, I saw that question. That's a great question. That's kind of the work we'll do in the next year and a half, is really look at the best alternatives for a route like this. And so with our consultants and the public, trying to see if that's what makes sense. What we're looking for is the fastest trip from the border to downtown, or maybe another stop to downtown. So that's everything's open at this point, and we'll study it and try to weed down and pare it down to the best alternative.
Great. And can I saw a comment, it was more of a comment and less of a question, but said 5 to 7 minutes on a 32-minute trip is a lot, relatively speaking. Sometimes freeways get widened for lesser time savings gains. Does anyone have a follow-up comment to that?
I would agree. 7-minute savings would be significant. It's a good point. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think in terms of like the time savings, right, that the hope would be, right, that the rapid route could also help with some time savings as well without having to do that super big investment in the rail, right?
Yep.
With how much rail projects cost. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. We could perhaps provide that savings faster at a lower cost. The rail improvements will take many years and a lot of money to implement, and we've heard loud and clear that people need the better service today. So we're trying to bring solutions sooner.
Right. And that you can do more solutions, right? If we're not investing in a ton of rail projects, we can go more places. Cool. And Rosina asked, what options for transportation does the border crossing population coming from the Otay Mesa port of entry to the San Isidro Transit Center? Are there any bus routes that are going to increase in that area? Is that being considered?
Not from the port of entry to across over to the San Isidro Transit Center, but we do have plans for a route from the CBX to Iris Trolley Transit Center. We've heard from a lot of folks that that connection is big. And then there already is the, MTS just opened up a new rapid route from Otay Mesa Port of Entry to Iris as well. And so that gets you over that direction very fast today before it used to. And maybe Brent can help chime in on this from MTS.
Tell us, Brent.
Yeah. Hi, everybody, Brent Boyd from MTS. Yeah, so we have the Iris Rapid, which currently goes from Otay Mesa to the Blue Line, connecting at Iris Avenue Trolley Station. One thing I wanted to mention is that we applied for grant funding to do an Otay Mesa transit study specifically. So we applied for that through the state last month, and we'll find out about that over the next few months. So that'll become a much bigger topic if we get that grant funding. We'll be studying the entire Otay Mesa area.
Good to know. Glad Brent was here to tell us. Okay. And someone had a comment about grade separations, and they mentioned that their fear is and sorry, when we say grade separations, we're talking about taking the trolley tracks and elevating them above street level in sort of a bridge, right? And their fear is if we're speeding up the cars in a roadway, that could increase the likelihood of accidents with people walking or biking to the Palomar Street station. And they're wondering how we're gonna make sure we're not just pumping more cars through at higher speeds without taking into account safety.
Yeah, Allie, I'll take this. Hi, everyone. I'm Jennifer Williamson. I'm the Deputy Director of Mobility Planning at SANDAG. And so the Palomar grade separation isn't just about, separating the rail from the automobiles. There's a number of pedestrian improvements that are part of that project, as well as safety improvements. So the access for people that are walking or biking will be improved, just as the throughput will be improved for the trolley coming through that intersection. So Allie was saying, one of the thoughts is that grade separations can be on bridges, but they can also go in tunnels below, which kind of removes that conflict point altogether with the automobiles. So the grade separation at Palomar is under design right now. We spend a lot of time thinking about pedestrians and bikes at that location, and that's kind of at the forefront of what we're looking at there.
Great, thanks for that. And another question was, are there any future options planned of some sort of neighborhood shuttle to take people to the San Diego airport? I'm assuming this means from South County, or perhaps taking people from the CBX to the San Diego airport.
Well, I'll take this one again, Allie. So We're working really closely right now on an airport transit connector, but before that is even complete, you have a great option today. MTS just implemented their overnight service on the Blue Line, and there's much more service in that corridor to get people over to connect to our 992 bus. We're looking at increasing that bus headway and the span of service very soon in order to provide those, kind of seamless connections for all hours of the day to get people from the South County. Because we know a lot of the airport workers, it's not just about tourism to the airport. It's really about getting the workers and people who live in San Diego over to the airport as well. And so we're working to create kind of a 24-hour service for folks getting, from the South County over to the airport. And look forward to implementing that pretty soon. Thank you.
Great. Wait, and Jennifer, what's that word mean? You said headway, bus?
Oh, I'm
headway?
sorry. How often the bus comes, we call it a headway. I apologize.
Oh,
It's
okay.
a little jargony. But yeah, every 15 minutes, every 10 minutes, that's what we consider a headway.
Oh, okay, fabulous. Thank
Yeah.
you. Okay, thanks for that. And when we do the study, will we be analyzing the cost of bus versus rail options in this planning study?
That'll probably be done in the other studies I mentioned that are going to look more at what different options there are to improve rail. We can compare the cost between those. Since we know that the bus will be something that we can implement a lot faster, we're definitely moving on that. And then the rail options will take a little bit longer to make a reality. And with that, we can consider the cost of all the options, including maybe just the bus could be the solution, but we still want to look at what could be possible to improve rail.
Great. Any other transit options that will be connecting to CBX that we could talk about?
So we do have a proposed route from the CBX over to the Iris trolley station to connect to the Blue Line. So that would get folks from that airport over to that, and then they could either connect to one of our new rapid routes or to the Blue Line to connect to downtown or other places around the county.
Awesome. Great. So I think we had answered everybody's questions in the Q&A. I'm just gonna check the chat to make sure I didn't miss anyone. Awesome. Yeah, just some other people sharing destinations in the chat. We'll make sure that that gets included in everybody's feedback from the meeting. And some people were asking about slides and the recording. Yeah, we're going to be, for everybody who joined the meeting today, we will be sharing the meeting recording in English and Spanish that will have the slides in the video. So just real quick, thank you everybody for sharing your feedback today. Again, as we'd mentioned, there's a survey open on this exact same topic that's going to be open till Wednesday, May 14th. And you can let your community know by sharing our social media post about the survey, sharing the link to the survey on your personal social media accounts. And if you want any graphics to share to your communities or blurbs introducing it in English or Spanish, you can get that from our project team. You can reply to my email. I was probably emailing you a lot before this call, or you can email us at rapid@sandag.org. So yeah, and if you want to stay in touch with us, I know we mentioned a whole lot of different transit solutions that are coming to South Bay. It's a lot to remember. The easiest way to know when there's an opportunity that you can give your feedback on any of those projects is by following us on social media. Make sure you follow us at Sandag Region on Instagram or Facebook, or Sandag on X. And you can always email us your questions at rapid@sandag.org. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to see you soon.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.